So here's the question I get asked all the time. How do you keep up with Pinterest, with Instagram, TikTok, and maybe, I don't know, your blog without losing your mind? Well, the short answer is kind of you don't really. Not if you're creating from scratch every single time. But the longer answer, the one that we're digging into today, is batching. More specifically, cross-platform batching. This is how you take one piece of content and literally spin it out across platforms in a way that feels fresh, relevant, but doesn't double your workload. It's about working smarter. And it's technically, honestly, the system that's keeping small business owners from burning out in 2025. So welcome back to the Pin and Plan podcast. I'm Lisa. I am a Pinterest pioneer on the PBC and a long-time member of the Pinterest business community. You can always find me there at Body, Mind, Mood. Just tag me. And if you're not on the PBC, please get on the PBC. It's free to join. Great place to network, talk pins, talk all things Pinterest. I'm also the founder of at the Simple Site Lab, where I am a web designer and design websites for small business owners. And I am also the founder of Body, Mind, Mood. It's a fitness business. I've been able to create a 5-figure income from Body, Mind, Mood via Pinterest. And I want to share those strategies and insights with you. Now, moving forward, every week I have been starting lately with what's trending across platforms, because the overlap is where we can save time and stay ahead of the curve. Okay. Now on TikTok, for example, I'm not on TikTok. What I've been seeing is a lot of micro content, and it's winning, like seriously winning. So what I see creators doing on TikTok is they're creating like 10 to 20 second clips that are literally pulled from longer content. And creators are actually batching these in one sitting and then posting for like 2-3 weeks. That's what I've been able to see, because I follow a number of content creators who I really like. And that seems to be what they are actually doing there. Okay, so heads up on that. On Instagram, carousels are back in a huge way. Huge. Why? I don't know exactly, but what's working, what it seems to be working, they're repurposing content from blogs, from podcasts, and even Pinterest graphics. They're turning them into like scrollable slides. So take that. Now on Pinterest, well, Pinterest thrives on what I call like, it's sort of the anchor content, right? It's anchor content. Longer form posts, blogs, and guides. These are huge on Pinterest. And here's the thing. Every single piece of content or anchor can and should spin off into multiple social posts. And some people are actually embracing that already. So what does this mean for us as small business owners? Well, it's simple. You don't need more ideas. You need better systems. Right? That's ultimately what it's telling us. So today I want to break down exactly how to use cross-platform batching to create once, repurpose everywhere, and finally get off the content wheel that we seem to be perpetually stuck on. Now let's start with why batching is the most sustainable system for 2025. Here's the truth bomb. Creating content daily is not sustainable. I feel like I'm saying that, but I feel like you guys probably already know that. It's not for solopreneurs. It is not for small business owners. And technically, by my standards, it's not for anyone. Trying to do that now is really, it's so difficult and almost impossible for a lot of small business owners. Now, batching changes that. It lets you focus on one task at a time. Think writing, designing, and recording. It lets you repurpose across platforms without reinventing the wheel. Hello. And it lets you stay consistent even when your life and work get really, really busy. And I know that we can all appreciate that. Now I'm using fitness here. Think of it like a meal prep. This is something I teach my clients to do. I don't teach them what to eat. I teach them how to eat. So think of it like a meal prep. If you cook every single meal fresh, eventually you get tired of doing it because life happens and work happens and you can't always do it, right? But if you do prep for the week, like say on a Sunday, right, you save time, you save money, and of course you save a ton of energy. Well, content basically works the same way, right? I don't think that's new for any of you listening. I think a lot of you probably already know that. So let's talk about the system. How do you actually batch across platforms? Well, here's a system that I teach my clients and I actually use myself as well, especially on certain platforms for sure. Now, Starting with anchor content. I talked about this because Pinterest, really, the content there is sort of like the anchor content. This could be a blog post. It could be a podcast episode or even a long form video. For example, a blog post with 5 fitness tips. Okay, that's number one. Start with content, your anchor content, the content that you can pull from. Okay, think of anchor content as content you can pull from. Step number 2, you're going to break it into platform pieces. Yes, I know. You're probably sitting there going, what? So here we do it. Let's do this. So first off, Pinterest. You're going to take that content. You're going to create 3 to 5 pins with different titles and designs. You're going to repurpose responsibly, right? And you're going to push out that content over time, over a week, maybe a few days, to relevant boards. But again, you're creating 3 to 5 pins with different titles and different designs from the same piece of content. Yes. Now on Instagram, you're going to take that content that you made for Pinterest, and you're going to turn it into a carousel. Then you're going to turn it into a reel, and then you're going to create a story. Okay? So Pinterest, Instagram, right? Now we move on to TikTok. You're going to take that same content, you're going to cut one of those tips. Remember I said the first was a blog post with 5 fitness tips. So you're going to take one of those tips and you're going to turn it into a 15-second clip. Then you're going to take all 5 of those tips and you're going to batch record all 5 of them for 15 seconds. Now you have your content for TikTok. Now, when it comes to email and email lists, for your subscribers, consider writing a short newsletter highlighting the main takeaways, right? Lastly, step 3 in the system, schedule everything at once. Use native schedulers or tools like the Pinterest scheduler that's built in. There's Tailwind, which is really popular. Later, Canva has a built-in planner. Adobe Express has a built-in planner. There's no excuse for not using the schedulers. You're going to set aside 1 to 2 hours to schedule your entire week or month in advance. Okay? Now, by starting with one anchor piece of content or one piece of content that you do on Pinterest first, you eliminate the pressure to create something new every day. Instead, you're strategically multiplying one idea into literally 10 pieces of content. Now, this is leading me in to this week's Pioneer tip. So the pin and plant Pioneer tip of the week, let's do it. Always design for Pinterest first. That's my tip, right? Why? Because Pinterest loves the anchor content, the guides, the blog posts, right? All of those things. That is where you're going to pull from because you create the most, I believe, the most intensive content, relevant content based on the platform. You're going to create that always first. And then you're going to use that content to pull into other social media. Okay? Now, why would you do this? Well, as I just said, now Pinterest graphics, remember this is an add-on to what I just said. Pinterest graphics are vertical, they're detailed, they're text forward, right? Once you have that, it's easier, believe it or not, and I've learned this over time, to crop down or simplify for Instagram or TikTok. Going in the opposite direction, taking a reel and trying to turn it into a pin usually feels pretty forced, doesn't always work, doesn't always look good, right? So you always want to start with Pinterest first. That is the tip, okay? And if you batch with Pinterest in mind first, then everything else becomes a lot easier to adapt, right? Also, to be fair, right? The content that we're putting out on Pinterest is really very in-depth. It leads to a very good place, hopefully. You're creating the most, I think, for Pinterest, which is why I suggest Pinterest should be designed for first. All right. Now, poll question. This week's Spotify poll question. Do you batch your content? Yes, weekly. Yes, monthly. Sometimes when I can. Not at all, in brackets, yet. answer the poll question here on Spotify, or, DM me. A lot of people DM me their responses. I don't know why, but that's okay. You can do that. And I kind of figure it out what the responses are. But please answer that Spotify poll. It really does help me create more content and understand what people want to hear about. Okay. Now, last week's poll results, I'm bringing this to you last. I asked, what's your current Pinterest posting frequency? And here's how you voted. And I also, by the way, put this poll inside of the Pinterest business community, got lots of really great responses on it. So here's how you voted outside of the PBC, mind you. 19% said once a day. 42% said 3 to 5 times per day, which is great. 26% said a few times a week. And 13% said totally inconsistent right now. That would be me. I actually voted that on the PBC, and I'm admitting it. Because, like I said, life, business gets busy. Sometimes there isn't always that freedom, even on a Sunday, to sit down and batch. I get it. Now, this tells me most of you are actually aiming for the growth zone, and that's great. But a lot of you are still struggling with consistency, and that's also okay. As long as you know that you can become consistent and how to do it, that's all I care about, really. Now, that's exactly where, really batching comes in, because batching gives you a repeatable system that keeps you showing up even when things get really busy, right? Now, on to a real PBC question Q&A from a member in the Pinterest business community. Let's do it. How do you avoid your content looking repetitive if you repurpose it everywhere? So it's a great question, and the answer is in the formatting, not in the messaging, right? If you're repurposing content, you're not changing the message. You are not changing the information. You are changing how it looks. Think design, think overlay text, think font, think colors, right? Maybe even a new photo, like a new image, right? Your message should always be consistent. People need to hear things multiple times for some people, before it sticks. So what changes is the formatting. For example, on Pinterest, you might do 5 tips graphic, a 5 tips graphic, for example, from a blog post maybe. On Instagram, you might do a personal story carousel with the same 5 tips woven in, right? On TikTok, a single 15-second video sharing just tip number 3, if you're looking at 5 tips. On email, for your email subscribers, a subject line like the tip I wish I knew sooner, with a quick story. Okay? Same core idea, just a different delivery. That's what keeps it fresh while saving you time. And speaking of saving time, let me tell you about something I've got coming up that's going to make your 2025 strategy even stronger. And I've done a few plugs on this, but I've sold out one class, doing the next class. So let's get into this. Before we wrap up, I want to share something exciting. In October, I'll be hosting a Run Pinterest Ads Without Wasting Money masterclass. I'm going to be walking you step by step through how to set up the ads the right way from the start, testing different budgets, even as low as $3. So you think $3, $50, and $100, without burning your ad spend or your cash. And I'm going to help you build an ad ladder strategy that actually grows with you instead of draining your wallet. Right? Because a lot of people do want to run ads, but don't realize that you can do it at a certain level, that you can do it in a certain way. And I'm also going to show you the kind of data you need to keep your eye on, because Pinterest is really great at giving you lots of data, but there's really certain data that actually applies to small business owners specifically. Now, spots are limited. I've got 30 seats. Now, if you've ever boosted a pin, right? Think about this, and it felt like it went nowhere. This masterclass will show you exactly what to do differently. Links are in the show notes. Please don't wait, because this one will fill up fast. The last one did. So just putting it out there. Now, that's a wrap on episode 15. Takeaway here, well, you don't need to create more. You need to batch smarter, right? Start with anchor content. Think Pinterest. Spin it into platform-specific pieces and schedule it all at once. That's how you stay consistent without burning out. Okay. Now, before I go, one more quick plug. I've launched a YouTube channel under the Simple Site Lab, where I'm sharing tutorials, tips, strategies for Pinterest and for Squarespace. So for those of you who are listening, who maybe are thinking about, changing platforms, maybe you don't have a website yet, but you want one and you're considering Squarespace, check it out. Now, these tips and strategies, tutorials are not together, two separate playlists, but side by side. So if you're a small business owner who wants to make both your marketing and your website work harder for you, definitely check it out and subscribe, please. Right? Now, next week, we're talking about holiday Pinterest strategies, how to maximize sales without burning out. Perfect timing as we head into December, November, right? We're looking at Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Christmas, New Year's, right? What can I tell you? It's getting all excited. Now, until then, keep pinning with purpose, and I will see you in the masterclass, I hope, and have an amazing week. See you next time. Bye for now.